Welcome back to Reclaiming America. I'm Greta, the Invisible Lady, and I am here today with my hosts, Bill. Say hi, Bill.
Hi, everybody.
And Dan.
Hi, everybody.
And Dan has something profound he would like to share. And so take it away, Dan.
That'll take seconds off the show.
So the last time we were on, Bill was trying to get me to apologize to him for a couple of things. And Bill, I'm going to apologize to you right now.
Accepted. Move on.
All right. You got to let me say what I'm apologizing for before you
No,
accept
I don't
it.
want to hear that part. I just take the apology.
I want to admit that I was wrong. The Republican Party has finally taken a stand. They've taken a stand on something that is absolutely critical to our nation and our government. They came together as an entire party. They've been out on every social media. They've been talking in the papers, everything. And I'm going to give them credit. Now, it wasn't something like the budget. It wasn't, the border crisis. No, the thing that they decided to come together and make a stand on, whether you're going to wear a suit in the Senate or not. That's the one they decided to target. So I apologize to you, Bill. They did come together.
Move on.
Greta's dying right now.
Yeah, no, she's trying to keep a straight face.
I was waiting for like 2 weeks to hit you with that one. But I will say, to be fair, they were all over social media about it. I don't know if you guys saw that. I've now living on Twitter, or what is it, X now, right? I unfortunately for me, this is not good because I'm spending a couple hours a day on it. It's back to where it was pre-2016-ish. But it's really interesting seeing what's out there. But that was all over the place. So I apologize, and now we can move on with the show.
Apology accepted. Just to delete everything after I apologize the first time. The rest of it's not necessary.
By the way, how about them Cowboys last week, my friend?
I think they did an excellent job of letting the league have a full speed. So when they come back and stomp on them for the rest of the season, how about my boys?
All right. So what do you want to talk about? I'll throw it to you guys.
Oh, how about we throw something out like they convicted Trump?
Oh, I had that one on my little list to my right here.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you tell the audience, Bill, in case they don't know what it is?
Some judge in New York has decided that Trump's empire needs to be broken up because they do fraud and they're not reporting things correctly. One of the most fascinating parts of it, if you do some research on it, is that the Mar-a-Lago estate that they have down in Florida, this judge has labeled it at a value of $18 million, and they're saying Trump totally overvalued its value. However, the real estate agents say turns $300 million without a try. So you think this is a setup? Hang in there, guys. Trump is going to appeal, and he's going to win.
Yeah.
What do you think, Greta?
I think that right now, unfortunately, at least in Manhattan, I'm not a New Yorker, so at least in Manhattan and in the Southern District of New York, the man wouldn't get a break, couldn't buy a break, okay? And the blood is out and the hounds are chasing him, and he's a tough guy, and I think he's going to beat it.
Yeah, I actually think this is going to be another one that backfires on him. It's when you look at it and realize that it's clearly a biased judge. It was a judicial decision, this wasn't in front of a jury or anything. Not that you put it in front of a jury of, hand-picked New Yorkers.
Yeah, the same numbers.
It's exactly. And as he is wont of saying quite often, the more you throw at me, the higher my numbers go. And last numbers I saw, again, we don't trust polls completely, but they're saying he's 10 points up. And those polls never favor the Republican side. So if they're saying he's 10 up, it's probably closer to 15 or 20, I think.
And as a matter of fact, the poll came out today that as far as the generic vote is concerned, the Republicans are 20 up on the economy.
Do the homework, folks. I mean, if most of the the polling sites, you can go to Real Clear Politics or 538, and they will show you the statistics on how each and every pollster leans. And 70% of them lean blue for Democrats. So the guy is even up 10 points with them.
I
So that
th-
should tell you everything you need to know.
yeah, I think if the election were held today, we would see, was it Reagan Mondale was 49 states to 1?
Yes.
I think you would see not 49 to 1, but I think you would see 45 maybe to 5. Cali, New York, Minnesota, they're not going to change, but I think
If former President Obama could be 56 to 1.
yes, I do remember when he said that. But it's interesting seeing how this is all playing out, and I do believe the Democrats know if they don't get Trump out, it's over already, and that's why they're doing things like convicting him with, frankly, a Soviet show trial had more worth than that thing did. It's I actually fear for the country at this point because we're seeing this proliferate. You know, DC's coming. I think DC's the next trial. I may be wrong on that, but that's going to be a slam dunk win for them over Trump. You know,
Atlanta would be right
Atlanta's
behind it.
right behind it. Um,
And then the feds.
and then the feds. And the timing on all of them are clearly to disrupt his ability to run.
Well, not only disrupt his ability, if they can get enough to win under the 14th, he can't.
Yeah, well, again, the question I would throw out to you then is, do you think at that point the Supreme Court steps in?
I think they're going to be stepping in on this case. They're going to appeal it all the way up the line because it's the only place he's going to get a decent answer. Because if he's going to go to the New York Supreme Court, he might as well not bother if that's where he's going to stop.
Do you, again, I don't know enough to say, does this have to go through the state Supreme Court before it goes to SCOTUS?
Uh,
I don't know. I'm asking.
I would think it would have to go through the state line, and then once they're through with the state, they can go to the federal to fight it.
So if that's the case, then all they've got to do is stall it at the state level past the election, right? SCOTUS can't come in and remove that quote unquote conviction. So they'll,
There could be enough pressure to expedite decisions at various levels. And there might even be the ability to skip right to the state Supreme Court under certain circumstances. So that's all a possibility. And then from there, whether the SCOTUS takes it up right or whether they got to go to the federal courts to get there, to be determined.
it'll be interesting to me to see how that all plays out with all of these cases. I think ultimately all of them are going to go to SCOTUS.
Yeah, and I think in one swoop, they're all going to go down in the flames.
Oh, I have no doubt they will. But the question is, when will it happen? Are we going to? I mean, the plan that I see from the Democrats right now is disrupt the election as much as possible, right? And by tying him up in court, let's say all of these end up in convictions, because I believe they will, right? Now he's got to appeal them all through that whole process. Meanwhile, he's got to show up in some of these court cases, so he's not out running.
Yeah, but at this point, he don't need to run. He just needs to go to the court case, and that's going to be the best time for him to get more votes.
You know, it's funny. A friend of mine said he needs to use the Biden strategy and just hide in his basement at this point.
And just show up at the court cases and show him sitting there in front of some biased judge or some biased prosecutor, and he gets another 10%.
All you got to do is look at that mugshot. That mugshot was worth a few million votes to him.
Probably so.
What do you think, Greta?
I think he made more money in 1 month on that mugshot than most people could have made if they cured all cancer. I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
And it would also guarantee him he got more play out of it. It didn't cost him a dime.
Yeah, that was free advertising, basically, right?
Yep.
I mean, who's the genius who said, "Oh, let's get that mugshot and put it out there and have it backfire like that"?
Guaranteeing people that he would show his mugshot.
So if this strategy is get Trump, get Trump, get Trump, and it seems to be having the exact opposite effect, then what proactive thing do we think our so-called friends on the other side are going after now to try to shore up their potential of hanging on to the White House and the Senate.
Well, there's two issues with that, and there's two prongs to that. First of all, in their circle, it's working, and they don't pay a damn bit of attention to the rest of us. So they're getting the convictions, and they're going, "Yeah, yeah, it's going great." But secondly, if you also pay attention to their other route, they're doing an awful lot again, coming out and pushing this COVID into the world. And the purpose behind it is to push up mail-in voting in 2024. And, that's the second prong on this trident. So there's another one out there we don't know about yet. But they're not coming in just one direction. They're coming in multiple directions.
Well, there's a third direction they're coming from too, which is to get rid of Biden. I mean, it's becoming more and more obvious that they're doing that.
Bingo.
Right? When you look at the bill that went through the California legislature, the trans rights one, and Gavin Newsom vetoed it. Are you kidding me? The only reason he vetoed that is because he knew if he signed it, it would come against him in the general, right? So I've heard a few things out there. Again, it's on Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it. But I've also seen some things in various other places where they're postulating that this is all to set up Newsom. They're going to out Biden sometime next year, possibly at the convention. The other wild card they're throwing out, I want to get your thoughts on this, both of you, is Michelle Obama.
Oh, that is always a wild card every year. And what is interesting, if you paid attention to her trip to Germany, she just did an hour speech in Germany, and her fee was $750,000.
Yeah, a little chump change, don't you think? A little small change they must have dug it out of the sofa or something.
Yeah, which is another way to feed some money into a campaign fund.
Do you think she's got a legitimate shot, though?
I don't think she'll run.
Really? What do you
I
think,
don't
Greta?
I honestly don't. I would be very surprised if she did. She's living the good life and making money and not being under the thumb all the time. I mean, she lived that life for 8 years. I honestly have never understood why any first lady like Hillary Clinton would go back and run after living that existence. So no, I don't think so.
See, I'm going to disagree with you. I think she's legitimately thinking about it. I'm not saying she's for sure. I think that the enticement is there. I could see it happening. Now, I could also, if, a year from now we find out she's not interested, that's fine too. I could see it. But I do think there's an inkling there because they are floating her. I got to believe somewhere behind the scenes, the DNC has talked with her or at least floated it. And even if it's like a 20% chance, I do think she's considering it.
So is Hillary.
What's that?
So is Hillary.
Sorry.
So is Gavin.
My personal belief is Gavin Newsom is your candidate.
I think you might see Pete doing a little bit of fighting on that one because he
do.
checks the boxes.
But
So is Dean Phillips. A lot of people are weighing in.
do you think the DNC will support them though? Because it seems to me the DNC is really starting to back Newsom. You're seeing what he's doing in California, where he's vetoing bills that are slam dunks normally that he would pass. Transgender. Why would he ever hold that back? The ability to. He's going to get slammed for that. I got to think that at the national level, they're talking to him and grooming him for that position. But could it be Buttigieg? Sure, absolutely, I could see it. I don't see the DNC pushing him as much. What do you think?
Greta, you first.
Okay, so poor Pete. I mean, how
Poor
many train wrecks and airline FUBARs and delayed and canceled flight? I mean, honestly, how many people in America have not been affected by this? I was affected several times by this whole debacle with the planes. I was horrified with the number of trade accidents that just came one right after the other. And I just don't see him. I don't see him conquering anything that he doesn't already have. California, sure. New York, fine. Illinois, what have you. But beyond that, I just don't see him taking Arizona or Texas or any. I just don't see it.
And that's my point why I don't think they would run him is exactly what you're saying, Greta. right? He can take the left states, but the middle ones, the battleground states, I don't think he's got a chance to take, say, a Michigan, an Ohio, or those. Newsom, maybe.
Ohio would be
Michelle
better.
Obama, I think they're all in play. I don't see Buttigieg having that kind of pull, to Greta's point. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I think Greta's 100% on target. I don't see, but I think he's out there and he might be a VP run.
There you go. That's what I think too.
And at the same token, uh, he will not play well in those border states, those middle states. Ohio, after that train wreck, shouldn't go anywhere near that place. Uh, because he and Biden are about as welcome there as the flu. And I just don't see them contributing anything there. But he will deliver a certain amount of votes. He checks a bunch of boxes. So with that, Newsom needs him because he's going to be California type, and this guy's come in the middle of the country routine. So I think he could be a good VP candidate.
I agree. That's where I think they're slotting him for VP. I think you're looking at Newsom, Buttigieg as your ticket, unless the wild card to me is Obama. And again, we don't know. It's just speculation at this point. I don't see any other contenders. I think it's down to the two and possibly third. The question is, can they beat Trump? Do you think?
And the answer is right now, no. And I think you're going to see even more of that after his speech tonight with United Auto Workers.
Well, we should talk about that whole scenario a little bit too, because wow. So you got Biden going on the picket line. First time ever a president has done that. I was stunned. I was stunned, but I'm not stunned. He's clearly picking a side. He's getting involved, which is their norm. But I'm wondering what Trump's going to say tonight. I'm dying to hear what he's going to say.
Well, we all know the reality is that the Democrats own the leadership of the unions. They just don't own the membership anymore. And I think that's what you're going to see when Trump gets to see the UAW auto workers tonight. You're going to see massive people cheering for him, whereas Joe Biden found 12 minutes in his schedule, which was also probably his attention span. And he stood on that line, and then he disappeared for vacation, I understand.
Oh, he's on another vacation?
Yeah, I think he jetted off to someplace else.
Somebody was telling me something like 40-something% of the time he's on vacation. Remember when they gave Trump?
Oh, I think that's modest.
Yeah. Remember when they gave Trump all the crap for playing golf?
Yeah.
Right.
Where are they now? They don't say a word about it.
Mm.
Well, I think he goes off on the weekends and on vacation to get recharged. Someone fills him up with whatever kind of B12 that he needs to
shots, yeah.
So
and to be honest with you, I wouldn't have a problem with him doing that. If he's going to go to Wilmington every weekend, I don't really care. The reason it's an issue for me is they gave Trump so much crap for doing it.
So what do you think happened at the big family summit in Tahoe? Why Hawaii burned?
Go ahead, Bill.
I didn't hear half that. I heard Hawaii.
Okay, so he was on a big, long, family-wide gathering at an estate in Lake Tahoe while
Yes,
Hawaii was burning, right?
Yeah.
So what happened there? Anybody have heard anything?
Well, no, I think he flew to Hawaii, made his appearance because he had to for no other reason than he was getting too much hot. And then he came back on vacation because he had to get recharged again. So nothing of consequence came out of that.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. I think it was just a dog and pony show, nothing more. Was anything more done? I don't think so. But to be honest with you, I didn't follow it that much either.
By the way, he did fly over the train exercise in Ohio, in Lebanon. He did fly over it when he was going there. I heard he might have tipped the wing so we got a better look. But that's as close as he's had time to go there in what, 150 days, 180 days?
Probably, yeah, it's at least that, right?
Yep.
I want to say it was February. We're into basically October as we're filming this.
Could be that long.
It's been a while. This is a very interesting presidency that we're seeing. I'd be curious to see 100 years from now when they look back at it and go, what were they thinking? because I think they're going to.
It's an example of a government that runs on autopilot.
Well, we don't even know who's running it, right? It
Oh, I do.
clearly isn't Biden.
The person running it is clearly married to Michelle.
Oh, you're getting into
Yeah,
conspiracy theories, Bill.
but you name me one other president in 45 or 46 of them that stayed in Washington, D.C. after his term or terms were over.
Oh, they
Try
go
to
running. Yeah, they run like
run
all,
back home,
Yep.
it's you know
don't
it's.
stay around, and that's power.
I don't disagree with you. I'm curious. It's to me. I think it's more than just him. I think there's like a little. I think it's the DNC. Whoever's running the top levels of the DNC. I'll say top 4 or 5 would be my speculation. But it's clearly not Biden. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I actually feel sorry for the man, what they're doing to him on a personal level. Um, it's you see him visibly deteriorating, and they're pumping him up and throwing him out there. And whether you agree with his politics or not, and I don't like seeing that done to anybody.
You know, I agree with you, especially with the fact that could be considered spousal abuse. I think his wife should be held accountable for what's happening
Well,
to
that
him.
we both have said that before, right? Is
Except he's a volunteer, isn't he? I mean, he was offered a deal. You want this? Here are the rules. Here's the deal. Now, was he in his full right
there?
mind to
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I don't know what his full right mind is. I've rarely seen an image of it since he got into office, right? And they really can't afford to cut him loose for more than 12 minutes, which is probably why that's as long as he was on the picket line, because it always blows back. But I don't know what the ultimate agreement or anything was, but I mean, I do know that someone who has been in public service for 50 years, who's really not that much older than Bill or I, would have some sort of idea, having been the vice president of the United States, of the pressure and the requirements. And if you'd rather be in Delaware eating ice cream and soaking up rays, that's where I would have gone.
Yeah, but there's another side to this we're not considering. He may have very well, as what Dan said, there may have been some sort of an operation where Greta said that they basically said to him, "Here's the rules if you take the job," and he took the job for no other reason than he could continue with influence issues. And
And that is the only reason I think that motivated him,
and I
was
agree with you on that.
like keeping his family out of trouble, basically, not to mention himself.
Well, we're going to be 3 for 3 on it then, because I agree with both of you. And on that note, guess what? It's time to take our first break. So we're going to step away for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back on Reclaiming America.
Welcome back to Reclaiming America. I'm here with my friends and co-host Bill and Dan. And Bill, take it away.
Well, we had an interesting conversation about what was going on nationally. We really have not had a conversation about the money that the Biden family appears to be collecting from all around the world. And every time a bank record comes up, it just makes matters worse. Dan, I'm going to bounce it to you to let them fill people in.
Well, I mean, we've been off for a couple of weeks. There's so many things that have come out about it all. I mean, they got hard evidence now. I mean, they literally delivered a payment to his house. And
$250,000.
$250,000, yeah.
I mean,
One payment.
Okay, you're going to claim it went to Hunter. Well, Hunter wasn't there at the time. Everything I've seen has said that Hunter was not there at the time. So why are they delivering it there? And what was that payment for? That's one thing I haven't heard a single person talk about yet. What specifically was that payment for?
I think the secret is it was his Christmas stocking.
Well, I mean, the person that supposedly sent it just happens to be, I believe they said this morning, it's number 5 in the CCP, something like that. His last name is Lee. And he's the one also, by the way, I guess that's in charge of buying up like farmland and property in the U.S. So how is this person sending $250,000 to the Biden house and this not, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? I'm trying to be polite about it so we don't get banned, but come on. Come on. What do you think, Greta?
I think that between Bob Menendez and the Biden family and the Clinton family and several other people who have yet to be busted, that it has become the new Washington, D.C. sport. I always knew that I've been on the Hill. I've dealt with these people. I don't necessarily like them personally, but I like some more than others. And I've always known that they were lining their pockets. They all pretty much feel like they have to get reelected, which is really not the job we sent them there to do, but that's how they feel, right? And to me, I mean, this to me is just the dominoes starting to fall. There's going to be more where where Biden and Menendez came from.
Okay, but I got a personal wager for you here, and I'll let you guys pick the person. The next person down will be a Republican to balance the issue here. So they're going to find a Republican, and it shouldn't be hard because they're all at some level doing this stuff. But they're going to find a Republican and nail that Republican up to dry publicly, and this way they can say it's a multiple party issue, not just a Democratic issue.
Probably McConnell.
You beat me to it. That's what I was going to throw out there.
That's what I've been thinking.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
I was thinking about McConnell, but I think he's got too much juice at this point to do that. I think they're going to find somebody else, and my half bet is it's going to be a conservative.
Like Gates or one of them.
It could be anyway. They could even go for a cruise, and I'm not saying he's doing it. I'm just simply saying they're going to look for someone at that level, or Michael Lee has been taking a lot of shots from them lately.
I think
look for something they can nail these guys on to bring them in the spotlight and take the heat off them.
Well, I mean, it was awful curious that, Menendez broke, Biden's check broke, and then all of a sudden the thing with Trump came out at the same time. I mean, it's
always.
Somebody was doing a whole thing on YouTube where they lined it all up. And the day something happens, within 24 hours, Trump's in trouble somehow. It's consistent, which means to me, by the way, the newspapers are tipping the DNC off, right? To say, look, we have this story. We're going to run it. Get your Trump thing ready. It's just too consistent. It's for months now.
Implying that the media is leaning left?
Leaning left? The Leaning Tower of Pisa is leaning less than they are. Come on. I mean, it's become absurd at this point. Although, to be fair, I got to be honest, they're starting to take shots at Biden. They are taking, but I think that's part of the plan, right? They've got to justify taking him out next spring somehow, or at the convention. I think it'll be more likely at the convention.
But the bigger question is, what do they do about Kamala?
Well, that's the $1 million question, right?
Because you're going to still put her in charge for over a year if you take him out next year.
Yeah, again, they could take him out in the sense that he's not running in 24, but still leave him in as president.
Yeah.
I mean, they could 25th him. Yeah, that's a fair point. And if they 25th him, then what are they going to do? I believe it's Nevada. They have to start putting the names in for candidates in the next month or two, somewhere in there. So I think we're going to see in the next 6 to 8 weeks, somewhere in that time frame, what their strategy is. Well,
you're looking at those numbers. It's already October for all practical purposes, guys.
Right.
December starts filing in North Carolina, so they all have to file here sometime in mid-December. So we're right there in a 2-month window.
There's primaries, January, right?
Yeah, they're early. January, February. We're in March.
So, all right, let me ask you this, because I don't know the answer to this, but I know will. Let's say Biden's on the ticket in North Carolina. What's the deadline in North Carolina to file for candidacy?
Sometime just before Christmas.
So let's just say, for the sake of argument, January 1, just to pick an easy date. All right. So let's say it's only Biden as of January 1. Nobody else files. Then they go to the convention, and it becomes, let's just use Newsom. How does that work within North Carolina then? Because if Biden's the only one on the ticket, do they then have an out to remove him and put Newsom in? How does that work? Because I don't know. It's a question I have.
I think he would have to withdraw himself.
Okay, so Biden pulls himself out.
And then that would go back to the party to come up with a candidate. Or the other option would be write-in.
So, as far as the state ballot goes, though,
Right.
would they then reprint them? I guess I don't know what the term is, to say, oh, Biden was not the candidate. It's now Newsom or Obama or whomever.
But if RFK is already filing, how can they justify that?
That's the
I'm sorry.
question.
So if RFK does file in North Carolina or every other state, right? How could they possibly justify going back and reprinting and extending the deadline to let the DNC throw somebody in? I don't think that's how it works, is it, Bill?
The legislature can extend the deadline anytime they want to. They can extend deadlines, including changing the primary. And they've done that in the past for varying reasons. And the last time the courts did it, they pushed that last primary to June. So, I mean, that's an option. I really think the way that's going to go, though, is you're going to see multiple people filing in North Carolina, and then he may withdraw himself, and that would give the DNC some leeway to play.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Greta, you brought up a point I hadn't thought about. If Kennedy does file, right? So let's say you got Biden, Kennedy running in the primary in North Carolina. Then Biden pulls out for whatever reason or passes away even, right? Does it default to Kennedy at that point? Or can the Democrats put in another candidate even though you're past the deadline? I guess that's the question that I have.
Well, you got two options. I mean, we have already elected people in the past that are dead, and then
yeah,
that's been a reality. So that is an option. But I would really think what would make things interesting is I'm almost betting you're going to see Kenny running on the No Labels Party, which has been accepted in North Carolina. Now, which would make things very, very interesting. I would also tell you there's been some information out that some of the big donors in the Democratic side of the House are pooling their money together to try and bury this No Labels Party. And right now they're in Arizona and Nevada, and I think they'll be coming here shortly because they realize if that party exists, it's going to hurt the Democratic candidate more than the Republican side of the House.
Oh, by a mile. Absolutely it will, especially if it is Kennedy, right? I mean, I keep watching Kennedy. I don't agree with everything he says, but I'm 75% of the way there with him. You got
a Kennedy mansion would be an interesting ticket on the No Label.
Ooh, that'd be a powerful one. I think. Again, he says the right things. And I want to believe it. That whole skepticism's now, right? We all have it. What politicians say and what they do are two different things, right? But to me, having watched Kennedy speak, listened to him, not the words, but his intonation and the way he's coming across, I do think most of what he's saying is genuine, and I believe he believes what he's saying. And it's funny, they have some differences, but him and Trump, to me, are not that far apart. As far as policy goes,
on a lot of issues, they are close,
very close. And it's interesting if that were to be the election ticket or the battle. Wow, that one could get real interesting, because they're going to debate each other, but half of what they're going to debate on, yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of like you and I debating, Bill, right? We're 80% in agreement. There might be a few things we're not, but it'd make for a pretty boring debate, don't you think?
Except those times when you're wrong.
I'm never wrong, Bill. I already apologized.
He may always be right, but he's never wrong. Okay, yeah.
What do you think, Greta, on that? Where do you stand with it all?
I agree with the last comment. What politicians say to gain percentages and what they actually do are rarely the same thing. Rarely.
You know what you really need to pay attention to, and very few people do? You need to pay attention to platforms from the party, because there's some stats out there, and I'm not a little hazy in the exact numbers, but I'm close. candidates usually fulfill just under 50% of what they promise, whereas a party platform usually ends up with 70, 75% done of what they promise. So to me, it's probably more important to see what platform comes out of those conventions, because that's where you really need to make your decisions.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make. And the other thing to throw out there is, we're talking president, but you got to look at. I think the Senate's going to flip in 24. Off the top of my head, 20 some odd states that are Democratic senators are up, including several of the swing states. What's that?
I think it's only 9 Republicans standing
Yeah,
against.
I was going to say 10, maybe it's 9. And though the 9 that are up or 10 are like solid red, right? The odds of them flipping are very slim. Maybe a 1 or 2 might flip. Democrats got a problem. They're going to lose the Senate. Unless we see what happened in 22, where we think it's going to go one way and it goes another. I think you're going to see 55 to 58 seats for the Republicans, maybe more.
I'll go 52-48, but I'm not going to go that far.
You don't think it'll be that far? I just think that so many people now have reached their breaking point. And I mean putting food on the table. We talked about the UAW earlier. People aren't realizing that they're asking for, basically, I'm rounding it, a 50% pay increase. The average car now is like $40,000. You think the car companies aren't going to raise the prices to offset that? So now a $40,000+ car is going to be $60,000. How does an average family possibly afford that? And that's what's going to be a year from now. So I think putting all that together and trying to buy food, insurance on housing. I just got my insurance bill and I went, holy crap, through the roof.
But you know what's going to be happening? And if you look historically about this information, every time there's been a major settlement for the UAW, 1 or 2 car plants move south, and those UAW jobs are no longer there. And they start making them in Tennessee, Mississippi, North Carolina would be prime. And they can put them in there, and South Carolina has one going on right now, that they can come in there and they're non-union. They turn out a good product. They pay a decent wage, and the UAW screws their own membership.
Well, they've already had layoffs. So there was a plant, I want to say Illinois, I could be wrong on that, to make the EV batteries. They're not doing it now. And it's directly related to the strike. So they're already costing their membership potential jobs.
Yeah, and more of the parts that come into this are coming from foreign countries anyway. So the reason they get assembled here is because there's a tariff coming in on cars.
Right.
So you build it in like Japan or whatever else and bring it over here. There's a massive there's a tax on that thing coming in. If you take the parts from Japan, assemble it in a U.S. plant, that tariff doesn't exist and the car's a lot cheaper. So they're going to be looking at those options too. And that's interesting.
I just think overall the way the economy is, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, I don't see interest rates going down anytime soon. The housing market is through the roof. Putting food on the table. Gas is up almost double from when Trump was president. I think that it's all going to come to a head next year. You've talked about it in the past, Bill. When is there enough pain, right?
And that's the point. I don't think there's enough yet.
They haven't suffered enough.
I think a year from now there will be, right?
Yeah.
I think this time next year, unless a miracle happens, people are really going to be hurting. I mean, they're hurting now. Let's be honest. They are hurting right now. I've had friends that say I've had to cut back just on basic things that they do. I said, a friend of mine said to me, I normally I would go to the movies. We're staying home and watching Netflix instead. It's people are cutting back. I'm cutting back. There's places I've cut back instead of going and doing something. We're like, we'll just we'll hang out here and grill steaks on the grill because we went to a local restaurant, and I know guys will know which one I mean. But for those out there, it's basically a diner that's in the middle of town. It's awesome. It's a sawmill for you guys. Awesome place. The food's great. My wife and I went. It cost us $55 for breakfast.
Yep.
I about fell out of the chair. My omelet, a Western omelet, was like $17. And I'm not faulting the restaurant at all because they got to cover their costs. You know, their insurance has gone up, their rent has gone up, all of that. And I'm looped in with all the small business owners. They're all in trouble. I mean, you're probably looking, and this is speculation on my part, but I would say somewhere between 30 and 50% of small businesses are in deep trouble right now. And that's just going to play out over the next 8, 10, 12 months.
Yeah, and more of them will shut down, which is going to cause more unemployment because about 80% of employment comes from small businesses, not these major corps.
Well, that's the other side of it too, is they're hiding that number. A lot more people are unemployed than the numbers show because they just stopped counting them. Right? So people who have never gone back to work from COVID are not showing up in the unemployment numbers because they're past the date. You know, I think it's 12 months. You have to, if you're not looking for a job past 12 months, they figure you've left the job market. And I maybe not be exact on that number, but that's so all those literally millions from COVID that didn't go back to work don't show up in that unemployment number. The number is a BS number.
Oh, yeah. Well, so is the inflation number if you don't count food and fuel. And
Yeah,
they don't.
you conveniently remove the two most expensive things, and hey, inflation's only 8%. And hey, it went down 0.1%. Ooh.
Yeah, we're doing really well. You know, you can't afford to fill your car up and eat. But
Dan has to be right about this because next year, and people like AOC are already seeing it. Next year, I think the pain is going to be too prolonged and so huge that it's going to be a repeat of it's the economy, stupid. When you've got people like AOC out there who, by the way, obliterated a big job making company in her district, Amazon, right? Complaining about how people can't afford this and it's not about these numbers on paper. I think that speaks volumes.
And I agree. And on that note, guess what? It's time to take another break.
it's break time.
So we're going to take a break and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes on Reclaiming America.
Welcome back to Reclaiming America. I'm Greta, the Invisible Lady. I'm here with Dan and Bill. Bill, take it away.
Hi, everybody. In our last segment, I thought we'd start looking at belief in God and religion, which will probably get us banned anyway, but that's the way it plays. Anyway, if you saw the latest surveys out there, we're comparing the last 30, 40 years of people's belief in religion. And basically what's interesting is the Republican, people who identify as Republicans, basically stayed the same in the low 60s of those that have a strong belief in God, et cetera, and organized religion. Where on the Democratic side, they dropped almost 40 points down to, I think it's high 20s, low 30s, as far as Democrats that still believe in God and the religious aspects of it. So, and that, I believe, points to a lot of the direction that they go politically. You know, and again, we've said this before, and I'll bring it up again. One of the main reasons, if you're a Democratic follower, you can't believe in religion is because religion has absolute truths. There are certain things that are right and are going to always be right, no matter what you believe or not. They're still right. On the other side of the fence, you have the Democratic belief in what we call relative truths, which basically says the truth can fit the situation. And that's where we have a problem with religion, and the Democrats have to run away from it. Dan, your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, as you know, I'm not a super religious person. I'm not anti-religion. But to the point on those surveys, it's that my Democratic friends must fall into that small group that are still religious, though, because most of the ones I know are religious. They're also the sane ones, if I may put it that way. I'm actually surprised at your numbers. What was the number you said for the Democratic Party? 30-something%?
36, 37%.
That actually surprised me, shocked me, because the woke crowd, I put at 15-20% of the Democratic Party. I don't think it's much bigger than that.
Except you got to consider the fact most of the quote, end quote, normal or blue dogs, if you want to use that term, have left the party.
That's a fair point. And the other thing I would say is, are they hiding their religious beliefs? That was where I was going to go. Do you
know,
think...
if they have true religious beliefs, they can't take some of the stands they have on some of the major issues of the day. So, and we're not going to go into all of them because we all know what they are. And besides, some of them will get us banned in Philadelphia. So we're not going to mention them here. But, you know, but again, we also need to separate the difference between belief in God and organized religion. Because there are some people, and I believe, Dan, you fall in that category. You have a belief God exists, but you're not a big fan of organized religion.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I sometimes I call it Mother Nature, Mother Earth. Sometimes I call it the universe. Sometimes I call it God. I'm in that, that I do believe there's a higher being of some sort, whatever that might be. It might not be the Judeo-Christian God, as you put it, but people will say to me, well, the Big Bang Theory. And I'm like, okay, I will give you that everything came from one small dot, right? Where'd that come from? And I have yet to get a single person that can say to me anything scientifically. And they short circuit when I do that, right? So did it just magically appear out of nothing? Where does science fall on that? And they just go, So I do believe in a higher power. I'm not a fan of organized religions because I think there's too much labeling between them. And this is not to knock any religion at all individually. It's just in general. There's so much fighting between them, right? Most of the wars we've had over the last 2,000 years in some way have been religious. That's my belief. And my belief also is if you want to practice Judaism, you want to be Roman Catholic, you want to be Muslim, you do you. You do whatever religion you want to be. Just don't push your beliefs on me. That's all I ask. Now you can slam me for it. I don't care.
I'm not going to agree with you. Greta, what do you think?
Well, more than 90% of the people on this planet believe in a higher power. That's just true. And I'm not Neil deGrasse over here. Have you heard about this guy? He's I
know all about him.
He's an astrophysicist. He's a bright guy, but he takes some positions that I say, you're a scientist, right? You're not supposed to be coming down on emotional positions, but unfortunately, a lot of scientists do. Bottom line, more than 90% of the people on this planet believe that there is something bigger and better out there and always have. So no amount of there is no God, and that's been around for a long time. Okay,
and will be forever, right? There's always going to be
dead.
those.
Wasn't that a famous headline? Come on, it's I'm with Dan and Bill. Okay, I am a religious person, and I do have an organized religion, but I've got some serious concerns about my organized religion nowadays. So. And I think a lot of people are like that.
The one thing I find fascinating about the whole discussion is we aren't going to know until basically we go in the ground, right? Then you're going to find out one way or the other. And whatever happens, happens. That's my viewpoint. I hope that, I'm going to go into this beautiful cloud-like thing, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'll be, a few thousand miles into the core of the earth burning. More than likely, my detractors will tell you I'm going to be there, but we don't know, and that's okay. Why are we beating each other up over a simple belief like that? That doesn't make anyone a bad person, whether they believe in it or don't believe in it. That's my view on it.
Greta, you were saying something?
Yeah, I already know, and you're going to be in a fine place, Dan. So don't worry about it.
Dan, I love you so much. I'm burying you with an air conditioner just to be safe. And I will tell you, and I agree with what Greta said earlier about concerns about organized religion. I will tell you that recently on a trip to Rome, and that's before I decided to do diving lessons in France.
For those that don't know, you've got to tell them, Bill, why you said that.
Bill, come on.
Come on, Bill, tell them.
While in France, I was getting off a tour bus in a very heavy rainstorm and managed to fall, dislocating a shoulder, cracking a couple of bones in my right arm, and tearing my whatever. And anyway, so I'm in the process of recovering from all those good things. But anyway, all before that in Rome, I had a chance to go visit the Vatican. of which, I will admit to being a Roman Catholic, though I will also tell you I converted upon marriage. I was grown up a Methodist. So interesting as that would come. But anyway, I was very disappointed by visiting the Vatican. I found it to be much, much too commercial. And I believe there should have been much, much more religion. You went to the Sistine Chapel, painted by Michelangelo, with all the things you hear. There are like 500 people in there. You can't pray. You can't sit. They're all talking. People are yelling. There are people changing babies in the middle of that chapel. And they charge you to get in to see it. I mean, the Catholic Church on that point gets 5 to 8 million visitors to the Vatican each year, and they get an average of 17 euros to get in, and even more if you want to tour the upper levels of the Sistine Chapel. So I'm a little turned off by that, but I'm not turned off by God, but just the religious aspects of the church.
Right, and that's kind of my viewpoint on religion, right? And all of them, not to pick on just the Catholic religion. They all are in some way a money-making enterprise, right? And they all don't follow their own tenets. That's the other one. Thou shalt not kill. They all kill. That's where I have my issues. That said, do I believe there's a higher power? Absolutely, I do. I mean,
and that's even higher than the Dallas Cowboys.
Stop, dude. They lost to Arizona as we're filming this. Okay. I just will point out the Giants beat them. But anyway, go ahead, Greta.
I actually enjoyed the Cowboys Arizona game. Sorry, Bill.
So the Giants beat them. Which world are you on?
They beat
Arizona.
They beat Arizona, Bill.
They beat Dallas, which is the only thing that mattered.
That's what I'm talking about. The Arizona Dallas game. It was a good game.
But I'm talking about the Giants and Dallas.
Stop. Let's get back on. Let's get back on topic. We got about 5 minutes, guys. Let's go.
Great, you had the floor. That just hit you.
All right, I guess I'm taking the floor here. All right. So let's kind of go from there. I want to kind of talk about that in the terms of like what you were initially saying, Bill, which was in terms of the electorate. You're talking about the Democratic Party splitting along those lines. Roughly a third, just around it, are still religious. Do you think, I'm guessing they're primarily the blue dog Democrats. That's where they would fall. Do you think they're turned off enough by the opposite side of the party that they would not vote with a D?
No, but I think they will vote because they also get the propaganda from the certain shows that they're listening to and the mailings that come in. So unfortunately there. But if you look at the untapped resource, I believe roughly 50% of the evangelist Christians in this nation did not vote in 2022, in 2020. That's a vast tap of people that we need to outreach to, and we need to explain to them the beliefs we have, the tenets that we have that line up with God's tenets, and get them involved because they're so turned off by politics, they won't even register in many cases.
Well, that's why I was going to ask you is why didn't they vote? Have you seen any research or data on why they chose not to vote?
Because they think the politicians are all crooked. They don't think they stand for the stands that they take and the platforms they take do not line up with their belief in what God is telling them they should and should not be doing.
So really not much different than me, other than the.
No, except that we need to understand that, there was only one perfect person in the world, and he's up there running the show up above. The rest of us are imperfect, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're not going to agree on everything. But again, following the Reagan rule, if someone is 70% of what you believe, that's your man or woman.
How much of the electorate does that constituency make up? I'm curious.
50% of evangelists, and I believe you're talking as many as 10 to 12 million voters.
So that would have been enough to sway 2020.
Absolutely.
Assuming they voted, I'm guessing 80-90% of them would have voted for Trump, give or take, maybe higher. So that would have been enough to sway the election. Getting back to my point, which is I do think that there is a pretty large number of Democrats that are going to do exactly what the evangelists did, not vote. They will walk away because, again, I have friends that are Democrats, and they are universally at this point becoming appalled at what's going on with their party. They're no fan of Trump by any means. They're no fan of the Republican Party at all. But I think they're seeing what's going on where the woke side of the party has completely taken control. I think that scares them more than anything, say, the Republicans or Trump could do. But they're gonna vote by not voting, similar to what the evangelists did.
Where they're going to join a number of Democrats and also the anti-Trump Republicans who will vote for the no label party and guarantee you Trump will win because it'll take away from the Democratic anti-Trump vote and put the Republicans in power, which is something I hope happens.
Do you think that the no label party will get in all 50 states? Last I knew, it was somewhere around 8 to 10 they were in.
That's the last number I heard, but they were filing in a number of states. I don't think they're going to get all 50, but I think they'll get in enough states to make a difference. I don't think, back when Clinton was elected, that party that
Ross Perot
ran didn't make all states, but he did enough damage to make sure Clinton won.
He did do a lot of damage, and I'm no fan of his by any means.
No, but if you have somebody like a Kennedy or a Manchin with them, they can attract enough votes for anti-Trumpers or for the Democratic Party to do a real good job to help the Republicans win.
Based on the messaging Kennedy's had, you throw Manchin with him, I think they have a shot, long shot, but I think they have a shot to win the whole thing.
But also consider this: you're talking about these people. The no label people are the rebels who are against the parties, which is perfect for the evangelists who are saying that neither party supports me.
Right. So they're going to fall into that line.
Right, and it's going to pull anti-Trumpers with them. It's going to pull Democrats who don't like what the party itself is doing, and it won't put them over the top. But I think it'll make a difference enough to pretty much give the Republicans a good run in 2024. I
also think, though, that you're missing the one constituency that's out there that's pretty large that most people don't know. It's the one I'm in. Is we're both sick of we're sick of the two-party system. We want that third party, and we'll vote for that third party simply to make a statement. Yeah. I think that's a lot bigger number than now. Is it enough to win the election? That I don't know, and I'd probably say probably not. But if give you a perspective, if Kennedy runs third party against Biden and Trump, I'm going to be honest with you. I got to think about it. I'm not saying I would vote for him. I don't know yet, but I agree with him enough that I could say, you know what, F you to you two parties. I'll vote that way. And
the question then becomes: are you going to make a statement vote, or are you going to vote to put the person in power who will do some good?
You're assuming, I believe, that person will be able to do any good.
Well, again, statement vote against the possibility of that person doing something good.
I fall back to 2016 when Trump won. He had the mandate and nothing got done, basically. I mean, they basically squashed him. Both parties did. They did a little bit, but remember, they were talking 2016. What was the big thing they were going to do? Get rid of Obamacare. I'm still suffering under it, Bill.
You want to put up the good stuff he accomplished with the wall that he started?
Oh, there's some awesome stuff. But in general, though,
you can't do it all in four. And especially coming in, and the one disadvantage he had is he really had no idea how corrupt the system was till he got there. And he ended up fighting the system more than trying to get anything else done.
But fair point there.
He's now learned.
I will give you that one.
He won, swinging and chopping where he needs to.
But Kennedy's saying the same thing. And that's where I think it's going to be interesting if that happens. Guess what, guys? We got about a minute left. So I'm going to give Greta 30 seconds to say anything you want. Go, Greta.
Anything I want.
Anything you want. 30 seconds.
Well, it's been my pleasure to actually appear in person with you, Dan, and you, Bill. And Bill, I wish you the best of luck on your recovery. I know that tomorrow will be a big turning point. And Dan, thank you for keeping everything going while Bill was gone. It's been a busy time. Personally, I have no problem with RFK, but I also think that, like you, Dan, most people will stay away because Joe Biden is on the ticket.
And on that note, we're going to wrap things up. Bill, you don't get to say another word. Sorry. I had to give her the star turn to close it out because it's her first time being on air with us. And there's Henry.
Henry,
There's our boy Henry. There he is. The close. We're ending the show right now. On that note.
And there's his comment on what you said.
On that note, hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Make sure you give us a like and share, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time on Reclaiming America.